Oh, hi everybody, Ezra Levant here. It's October 11th and you're watching Battleground. Well, hey folks, Ezra Levant is my name, and every Friday I sit in this chair and I do what's called a live stream. You know what that means, but YouTube has a special kind of a live stream they call it a super chat. I got to say, that raises expectations, doesn't it? I mean, maybe it's just a pretty good chat, but they call it super chat. What makes it super is that you can take your comments, chip in a few bucks, and have your comment show up as a bright color. Now, out of the corner of my eye, I see the color of the screen. Whoa, let me just put mute there. And so I will, all my devices are talking. All my devices are talking. Let me turn them off. I see the colored comment out of the corner of my eye and I read it. So if you want me to see your comment for sure, let me know by super chatting it. I'll read it, and if I happen to miss it, our producer Justin sends me an email and I read them. So that's the fun part. It's 12:01 Eastern Time, 10:01 Mountain Time. I was in Edmonton, Alberta last night at a book launch event. Very strange event. We had a huge turnout, but the proprietor of the venue kept the doors locked because he had received threats. And I'm not even going to say from Antifa activists so much, because that implies it was some anonymous person. I don't know why my Siri is transcribing all my comments here. It's really not that interesting. But actual New Democrat Party spokesman, a former New Democrat politician. So these weren't even like masked street thugs threatening the venue. These were people of high station, and it was just shocking. I'll come back to that later. I'll have some video for you, and I'll tell you my plan of how to fight the deplatforming, because it came on like a light. In fact, why don't I talk about it right now? Can we show a little bit of, do we have the clip of me actually outside the Princess Theatre? Here, okay, so this is last night. Just to recap, I got a book. It's a best-selling book, actually. It's called The Libranos, What the Media Won't Tell You About Justin Trudeau's Corruption. Okay, so you know where I'm coming from. The book actually hit #2 on the Amazon.ca bestseller list. The only book to beat me was Margaret Atwood's new book, and that's a fiction book, so my book is the #1 nonfiction book in Canada, just crushing the other Trudeau biographies written by John Ivison and Andrew Wherry. Well, of course, those are love letters to Trudeau. No one wants to read those. We get enough of that in mainstream media. So I was going to Edmonton for a book launch. We sold hundreds of tickets, and it was to the Princess Theatre, which is a lovely antique theater, like an art house theater, you know, the kind that has rare movies and that's really independent and homemade. Like, they would never have first-run movies there. Great place. I've had events there before. In fact, we premiered a movie called Climate Hustle there a couple years back. Rebel News did it. Packed the place, 350 tickets. And same thing also when we were in Calgary at the sister theater called the Plaza. So it's the Princess in Edmonton and the Plaza in Calgary. So we called up the same guys and said, hey, we did a great event with you a couple years ago. Let's do it again. Same sort of song and dance, except for instead of premiering a movie, it's my book. We'll just sign books. And they said, sure. And I said, by the way, you know, it's a politically controversial book. Challenges Justin Trudeau. It's called The Libranos. You cool with it? I said, oh yeah. He said, I've been in this business 30 years and I've never canceled anything. I don't take a political opinion. Which is smart. I mean, how could you possibly be like a censor and in the art house movie business? Anyways, 2 days before the event, like I say, all these threats start coming to this proprietor. Mike Brower is his name. And I call him on the phone and he says, Ezra, I'm getting so many of these calls, I can't even sleep at night. My phone's ringing off the hook. I said, well, just don't answer your phone. He says, what are you talking about? I got to answer my phone. I said, look, they're not serious. He said, well, you know, sure they are. I said, all right, well, we'll hire private security for you. Don't even worry. And the police, we'll tell the police to be there. And I did, and they were. So we had private security and the police van. There was like 10 cops there, and nothing happened. There was one local town fool. His name was Rickshaw Dave. Like, there was no Antifa there. And yet the proprietor was so terrified, he locked the doors and turned out the lights. Here's a clip. We were there. We were all there. There was a ton of people on the sidewalk, and someone brought a megaphone, so I yapped a bit. Take a look.
How you doing in Edmonton tonight? Yay! It's a little chilly. It's a little chilly. My name's Ezra Levant. I'm the Rebel Commander at rebelnews.com.
Yay.
And welcome to my book launch of The Libranos. Now the thing is, we were supposed to have the book launch inside the theater. But as you can see, we are outside the theater. Now this isn't supposed to be that way because I have in my hand here a contract with the theater owner, and I also have proof of payment on my credit card. So why am I outside instead of inside?
Question.
That's a good question, and there's a bad answer to it.
5 minutes left.
Now, this isn't the first time we've been to the Princess Theater up here and its sister theater in Calgary called the Plaza. In fact, some of you might remember that we had a world, or sort of a Canadian...
All right, you can hear I was repeating some of the things I just told you. Anyways, after yapping on the megaphone for a bit, we walked down to another venue that was just around the corner called Rosie's. It was a bar. And we all went there because it was a bit chilly. I actually liked being on the sidewalk outside the theater. But it was a little cold. And so we went around the corner to Rosie's. I signed hundreds of books. And it was a great night. But can you fast forward, Justin, to where I announced my plan for what to do about it? You can get that either from the recording I did inside Rosie's or outside the front. And let me just preface it while you're looking for it. Justin, you just give me the signal when you got that. Just when I start talking about the plan. Let me tell you the plan, and then I'll show you how I announced it yesterday. So, I've been deplatformed a few times before. You know what I mean by deplatformed? It's a kind of censorship where they just deny you a venue. So you apply to get a venue somewhere and they won't let you in because they don't like the fact that you're conservative. That's blocking someone from getting a platform. But what if they have a platform? What if you sign a contract with an event venue, like a theater? And you have that contract and everything's great, and you know the elements of a contract, I give you consideration, you give me consideration. That's what they call money or something. I give you some money, you give me a venue, that's a deal, we got a contract. So you got a contract and both sides are bound by it. It's a kind of private law that binds two people to each other. And what if some stranger who is not a party to the contract goes to work on one of the people to get them to breach the contract? So if I have a contract with you to sell me 10 chicken wings and I pay you the $5 or whatever and you only give me 5 chicken wings, I could theoretically sue you. It wouldn't be worth it. I could sue you for a refund, I could sue you to get an order directing you to give me more chicken wings or whatever. I have certain rights against you because of the contract, and if you breach the contract, I have certain damages. But what about the guy who induces you to breach the contract? Let me move out of the world of chicken back to the world of political speech. So I have a contract with the Princess Theater, great venue. I had a great rapport with the guy. We were friends. We did the event before, super duper. I paid the money in advance. And someone goes to work on Mike Berard, the entrepreneur, and scares him so badly, threatens him so badly, he told me he couldn't sleep at night. That's what he told me on the phone. And so someone went to work on my business partner and got him to break the contract with me. Well, believe it or not, I have a legal cause of action. I have a lawsuit, not just against the owner of the Princess Theater for breach of contract, but did you know that in Canadian law, and in UK law, and I'm sure it's American law too, I just don't happen to know the cases, I have a cause of action. That means I have grounds to sue anyone and everyone who pressured my business partner to renege on me. Did you know that? And ironically, if they would have really harassed the theater, but if he would have stood firm, and if I would have had the book signing event as planned, I would have no cause of action against those harassers, those bullies. It's only because they were successful at nuking the contract that I now have a civil claim, not just against the Princess Theater, but against every single person that pushed him to breach the contract. That could be dozens of people. It could theoretically be hundreds of people. The irony is, tell me when you got that? Here, okay. Well, just give me the heads up when you're there. You're there? Okay, here, let me play a little bit. Here's how I said it last night. I'll see if it was good. If not, I'll do it live today. Here's what I said last night.
We were unafraid to stare down Justin Trudeau and make him bend the knee. Do you really think we are going to give in to street thugs like Rick Saunders?
Oh no.
Now again, you and I did give in. We're all here. Mike Farrar gave in, and I'm not being too mad at him because he just wanted to rent a theater. But what happened? Breach of contract is what happened. I have a contract for this theater tonight, and it was breached by Mike Farrar. But Mike Farrar wasn't the root of the problem, was he? All the people who threatened Mike Farrar, Jessica Littlewood, the failed NDP MLA, Progress Alberta, the street thugs for Rachel Notley, they were the ones who threatened Mike Farrar. I know that because he told me.
Don't forget the mirror.
So what can I do about that? I'll tell you, I used to be a lawyer back in the day. I don't know which is more disreputable, a lawyer or a journalist. I'm a bit of both.
Journalist.
But I know this. There is a civil lawsuit for a tort called inducing a breach of contract. If you know there's a contract between two people and you interfere and you cause someone to breach the contract, you, the interferer, have a civil action against you. That's called breach of contract. And here's the thing about those NDP. They're so stupid or brazen, whichever one, that they thought they would do this in public, on Twitter, on Facebook, in emails. They were so proud of what they were doing that many of them did it in their own names because they have never been held to account before. Well, guess what? That changes tonight. Every single person who was stupid enough to use their real name online, and every single person who was stupid enough not to hide their tracks, every one of them, whether it's dozens or hundreds, they will be sued for inducing breach of contract. Sheila and I had lunch with our legal team today, and we mapped out the plan, and that starts tomorrow. And let me say this. I once had the pleasure of listening to a speech by the deputy.
You know, I went on at quite some length there, so I won't subject you to myself. And look how ugly I am at the best of times. Imagine me without makeup. That was me last night. Just hideous. But the message is clear. And I think I came up with this idea by myself. Maybe other people are doing it. But how do you fight against deplatforming? Well, I think you sue every... And what I was about to say there is, maybe I should have let that play. Do you want to let that... Can you pick it up from where I cut off there? I once listened to the speech given by the deputy police chief in New York City about how they cracked down on crime. Can you pick it up? I shouldn't have cut off there. Play one more minute, because I learned something that it was 15 years ago. I heard the New York City police chief, deputy, the one who served under Giuliani when he cleaned up the city, and he said something fascinating that I never forgot about how crime in New York worked, and I think I'm applying that to deplatformers. Play one more minute. I cut you off too soon, Justin. Take a look.
Every single person who was stupid enough to use their real name online, and every single person who was stupid enough not to hide their tracks, every one of them, whether it's dozens or hundreds, they will be sued for inducing breach of contract. Sheila and I had lunch with our legal team today, and we mapped out the plan, and that starts tomorrow. And let me say this. I once had the pleasure of listening to a speech by the Deputy Police Chief of New York City. And he explained how Rudy Giuliani turned that city around in terms of crime. And he said something I'll never forget.
What's that, Ezra?
I'll tell you. He said that in certain neighborhoods, all it took was one criminal, one thug, to make 100 families scared all the time. Yeah. One tough guy, one abuser, one drug dealer. All it took to make 100 families terrified at night was one guy. And so what I learned from the Deputy Police Chief of New York City was they arrest that one guy and suddenly 100 people are free. 100 people don't need bars on their window. And why do I tell you that story today? Because I know Alberta enough that this city of more than 1 million believes in free speech and free debate and different opinions. And so the NDP bullies who scared Mike Brohr said he can't sleep.
So do you understand the analogy? Do you understand why I invoked those comments from the Deputy Chief of Police? So here's what he said was, like, take a neighborhood that was really tough in the 80s, like Harlem. And you would think, well, every single house, every 10 feet, there was a bad guy making it unlivable. But what this Deputy Chief of Police said is that actually it just took one bad dude to keep the entire block. And you know, it might be a 10-story building, and you might have 200 units and 2 people in each unit. So you might have 500 people, every one of whom is scared all the time just by one really bad dude who maybe has a gun, sells drugs, is violent, swears at people, is always marauding. So all it takes is one person who's lawless and violent to terrify hundreds. That's the message. So you find a way to sweep that one guy off the streets by enforcing laws big and small. That was the real secret. The broken windows theory. You get them on the jaywalking, you get them on the turnstile jumping, you get them on graffiti, you sweep them off the street with those small offenses. And guess what? You get the big offenses going down too. The analogy I was trying to make is, how many people, there's about 1 million people in Edmonton, depends on how big a metro area you measure. Say there's 1 million people. How many people actually would want to ban a book signing event at an art house theater? Is it really even, well, I mean, maybe, I don't know, maybe thousands of people would want to ban it, but how many people would actually phone or email a proprietor and threaten him? That's the real question. I don't even want to know the answer how many people would want to ban things, because the number's probably too high. But in a city of 1 million, do you think there's more than 100 in the whole city who would actually be motivated to email or call? I don't. Because you got to be really weird to do that. You've got to be, I mean, even if you hate me, hate the book, hate conservatives, hate, to call up a landlord and threaten the landlord, you've got to be a sociopath to do that, I think. So my point is, just like a handful of people could terrify a huge area of Harlem, according to the old deputy police chief, I think 30, 40, 50 Edmontonians were enough to terrify an impresario of a theater to cancel. And to close the loop on my story here, if I sue every goddamn one of them, I think we're going to do what that deputy police chief and Rudy Giuliani did to New York City. I think we have found the most malicious and stupidest 50 Edmontonians who actually threatened Mike Brohr in their public identity. We'll never find the anonymous trolls, but anyone who sent an email, sent a tweet, sent to Facebook, sent something like that, We get their name and we slap them with this inducement to breach contract suit. And I happen to have started to collect the names because the stupidest of them all bragged about it online. So yesterday, it's true, I did meet with Sheila Gunn-Reid and our lawyer before the event because I thought, oh, there's a good chance it's going to be nuked. And we are going to proceed. And here's what I'm hoping happens. Obviously, my goal is for justice to be done, which is to enforce the court, the civil law against the tort, of breach of contract. You just can't do that to people. But by suing the individual bullies, let's say at the end of the day we end up suing 20 individual people. Those are probably the equivalent of the 20 thugs who would terrify blocks and blocks and blocks in Harlem. So not only would they be specifically deterred from deplatforming people again, and deplatforming me especially, but word would get out, don't deplatform, or if you do, do so on the triple lowdown, secret, double top secret, because if someone finds out your name, you're going to be slapped with a civil suit. Then how brave are you, Mr. Keyboard Warrior? It's one thing to be really brave on Twitter. How brave are you in the court of law, buddy? And that's what we're going to do. So we'll have the specific deterrent, and that means those individuals will be stopped, hopefully. And if they don't believe that breach of contract is wrong, maybe they need to hear it from a judge. I would imagine they would be deterred from trying to deplatform me in particular. And hopefully they would be taught a lesson in civics that their mama didn't tell them, which is don't go around threatening immigrant entrepreneurs like my buddy Mike Brar, threatening him to cancel an event. So that's the plan, and I can hardly wait to get it into action. Of course, financially, it makes no sense to sue every one of those people who induced the breach of contract. Let's say our damages last night were $10,000. I'm just pulling a number out of the air. I haven't calculated yet. So let's say by breaching the contract with me, I lost 10 grand. It's possible. There is no way you can sue 10 people in an extensive litigation for 10 grand. You'd be lucky to get out of it for 50 grand. It's just how expensive lawsuits are. So why on earth would you spend 50 grand suing if you're only going to get 10 grand back? Well, obviously it's not about the money. It's about stopping this fascist activity called deplatforming. And by enforcing the law, by enforcing your rights, I suppose in the long run, it probably would be economic, because if you have to sue once or twice to teach everyone a lesson and send a warning, maybe you save yourself the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th time. Maybe if you don't sue, they deplatform you every time. You sue once, you do twice, they say, oh, we better not mess with this one. Or maybe we'll deplatform somewhere else, but let's not deplatform Ezra and the Rebel, because we know that he'll sue us. So that's the strategy there, and I don't mind sharing that strategy with the deplatformers, because I'm hoping they'll come to their senses on their own and stop deplatforming people, but I don't think they will come to their senses. I think they're so stupid and such bullies, and they think they're so immune to consequences. They're never being held accountable or responsible before. I think they are going to have to be told by a judge that what they're doing is wrong before they stop. You know what? That's fine by me. All right, well, it's 12:23, and I've spent a lot of time telling you about last night. That wasn't really my plan. I want to catch up by reading some of the super chats. Jesus Max says, support from Germany. God bless you and your team. Do you have contact to European activists outside of the UK? The answer is not really. We have some friends in other countries. We have done reports from France, Belgium, Sweden, Denmark, Germany. I think we were in Austria, I'm trying to remember. We did work in Italy, but we don't have correspondence there, to be candid. Proud Boys Calgary, me and some of my boys will be there on the 15th. Any update on whether or not the plaza is still on? Proud of your boys. Well, it's the same owner who owns the Princess and the Plaza. I was going to call him today and say, look, Mike, you were worried about all these Antifa showing up. There was just one lone kook called Rickshaw Dave. No one else was there. I'm going to try and convince him to honor his contract. David Anderson chips in $10. Ezra, see you Tuesday. Will Rebel News do election night commentary? Yeah, I think we're going to. In fact, we were just talking about that before I hopped on the YouTubes today. MVP chips in $6. First time I watched Trudeau in a debate on Monday. Why would anyone vote for him is beyond me. Well, he's so dreamy. Let me see if there's any other super chats, just if there's any that I missed. There's one new one. Keep fighting for Canada, Rebel News. And that's from I Am Play. Thank you, we will. And we fight for freedom in other places too. A gentleman just asked about our European journalism. We cover the UK, mainly, I suppose, because we have the connection there of Tommy Robinson, because things are bad there, because the English language is what we speak. So we do cover other places. Pardon me, I'm yawning. I took the red eye back from Edmonton. The Corker chips in $10 and says, do you think Trudeau has signed an NDA re West Point High School? Yes, I do, even though he said last night that he didn't. I say that for two reasons. Number one, Justin Trudeau lies, and he lies about lying, so we can't take him at his word. Number two, very, very strange, when Justin Trudeau resigned abruptly in the middle of the school year, which is not usual. Why would a teacher resign abruptly in the middle of the year? He said, for my career path. Yeah, no. Teachers work in school years. They don't suddenly have a new career path in the middle of the year. Don't lie to me. When he announced his abrupt resignation, the announcement was very strange, issued by a law firm. Why would a law firm issue a press release about Trudeau leaving a school unless there was a legal reason? I'm so sorry, I'm yawning. I got on the plane at about midnight Mountain Time, which was 2 a.m. our time, and I got a few Z's, but I've only had 2 Red Bulls and 3 coffees today, so I'm not yet caught up. All right, folks, it's 12:26, and I thank you for letting me tell you about the deplatforming incident last night in Edmonton. I say to my friends in Calgary, in southern Alberta, we are coming to the sister theater called The Plaza. It's in Kensington. We're coming there on Tuesday night, the 15th. So we'll see you there at 5 p.m. I'm going to try and talk Mike Breyer off the ledge. I'm going to say, look, you locked the doors on us in Edmonton. There was no reason for that. There was absolutely no risk to you. Oh, I didn't even mention, we paid for private security. I was trying to put Mike, the proprietor, at ease. Didn't work. Okay, so it's 12:20. Can I show you some other vids? I got some fun vids for you. Let me just... so we talked about the book events. Oh boy, I got so many videos here, don't I? It's been such a crazy week. Can I tell you? I mean, maybe some of you saw my live stream on Monday. You know what happened on Monday, right? Monday night was the first and only English language leaders debate in the Canadian federal election. And 2 of our reporters applied for accreditation. And hundreds of reporters were accredited. It was pretty much a rubber stamp. And not only were Canadian reporters accredited, so were 3 reporters from Al Jazeera, the Qatar state broadcaster. So were reporters from Vietnam, from China, I think. From, I think the People's Daily was accredited, if I'm recalling. French TV, German, lots of German TV. So all these foreigners who, I don't even know why they would do that. I mean, I know why, because it's news. They want to follow the Canadian election. But there were like 7 from Germany. I didn't know Canada was that interesting in Germany. But we were not. So hang on. Canadian reporters were discredited, but foreign reporters, including those from Qatar's propaganda agency, were accredited. That made no sense to us. So we applied for a judicial review of the decision, because it's a government-run debate. And more excitingly, we went to the federal court on an emergency basis and said, hey, judge, let us in. The debate's tonight. It's an emergency. Give us an immediate restraining order, actually the opposite of restraining order, an order compelling them to accredit. And lo and behold, wouldn't you believe it, we got that order. And I'm so glad we did, because our reporters just killed it. They just did a great job. There's so many clips, I can't show you them all, we don't have time. But let me just throw you one more anecdote before I start showing you the clip. So in the court, there's this judge who's presiding, he's a federal court judge. Judge Russell Zinn was his name. And he said, okay, let me get this straight. Because remember, this was thrown on his desk that morning. So he only had a few hours to get up to speed. So he said to the lawyers in the room, he said, let me get this straight. What exactly do you get by being accredited? So you just get to watch the debate everyone else watches on their TVs? Why do you even care? Okay, good point. But the answer to that was because after the debate, the individual leaders come out to do a press scrum. And then reporters have a chance to put their own questions to the leaders. But Justice Zinn pointed out, well, you got 250 people in the room. Each leader takes maybe 5 questions. The judge said that's like winning a lottery. Now, one of the lawyers on our side of the fight said, well, you can't win a lottery ticket if you're not allowed to. You can't win a lottery if you're not allowed to buy a ticket, Judge. That's a good point. But here, so anyhow, the last point about the judge ended his remarks. He gave us the order we sought, but he made a quip. He said something like, I wasn't planning on watching the debates, but I'm interested now and I'll watch them. So later that night, Cian Bexley nailed it. He had questions for Trudeau. He had questions for, I think it was the Bloc Québécois. He had a lot of questions. I think Cian had 6 questions he was able to put. And Andrew Lawton, who was also suing for the True North, he got 2 questions. So between Cian and Andrew Lawton, we had more questions than any other journalist. I want to show you, why don't we do the Cian blackface one? That's a fun one. That's from Monday night. Take a look.
Hi, Mr. Trudeau. Since your multiple use of blackface became an international scandal, Canada's international reputation has been irreparably harmed. Have you reached out to any African leaders or any leaders from the Middle East to apologize for your conduct?
Canada will continue to engage in a positive, constructive way around the world, standing up for human rights, engaging with leaders right around the world, because we know that promoting our values and prosperity for everyone around the world is good for Canadians and creates better opportunities for everyone.
So that didn't answer the question at all. Have you spoken to any African leaders or leaders from the Middle East to apologize for your personal conduct?
I have continued to engage with leaders around the world in a responsible way during an election campaign. My focus is connecting with Canadians, as I was able to tonight. And I was very pleased to see so many of the questions turn to the environment. In all sections, there was a clear contrast between those on stage who don't think we should be fighting climate change and those of us who do. And again, we are the only party with a clear plan to fight climate change.
Do you think this...
A non-answer, but the question was really good. I thought it was very zingery. And even more fun is Cian got a supplemental question. So that was on Monday. I won't show all of his questions, but Cian was back last night because it was the French language leaders debate, and they all talked in French, but afterwards the scrum was in either official language. I want to show you... I got so many clips here I could choose from because David Menzies had some questions too. Let's do Cian's question to Trudeau about West Point Grey Academy. Take a look.
Hi, Cian, RNN. Have you, your campaign, or any other agents secured non-disclosure agreements from anyone about inappropriate sexual personal conduct?
No.
Follow-up, the 2001 yearbook from West Point Grey Academy says that you and convicted sex offender Christopher Ingvaldson made a young student's, quote, life at WPGA a lot more interesting / amusing, end quote. How did you two keep her amused?
We were teachers.
Great questions. David Menzies had some good questions. Why don't we show Menzies on the same subject, West Point Grey Academy?
David Menzies, Rebel News. Mr. Prime Minister, you left West Point Grey Academy in the middle of a term, which is highly unusual. It was a law firm that made this announcement, which is also highly unusual. Sir, can you tell us the real reason why you left so abruptly, and did it involve any kind of sexual misconduct at the school?
I wrote 3 pages on that in my autobiography, and it involved absolutely nothing of the sort of the rumors that you're trying to spread.
Even so, Mr. Prime Minister, a follow-up question. Why did so many teenage girls write so passionately about you in the yearbook? Was there any connection to you having a relationship with these girls or their mothers?
I was a good teacher.
There he was. But I enjoyed the fact that the questions were put to him. There were more versions of the question. Let me just choose one more here. Menzies asked Elizabeth Gray of the Green Party some questions. I've got like 10 to choose from. I don't want to go, maybe I'll go through all of them later, but here's Menzies asking Elizabeth May about her love affair for a convicted, confessed murderer, terrorist, and war criminal named Omar Khadr. Take a look.
David Menzies with Rebel News. Ms. May, in 2015, you stated that convicted terrorist Omar Khadr had more class than the entire effing conservative cabinet under Stephen Harper. Do you still believe in 2019 that this convicted terrorist has more class than the entire Conservative Party under Andrew Scheer?
Have you ever been to a press gallery dinner? Do you understand the concept of it being ridiculous with lots of humor? I'm sorry, that's not a real question.
Oh, sorry. If this was an attempt at humor, a supplemental question, do you think that the widow
You think people
and the
give
fatherless
serious
children
speeches?
and the fatherless children of Christopher Speer, his murder victim, do you think they found that funny, Miss May?
I don't think you understand the concept of press gallery dinner skits, but I will say this. There's very questionable evidence that Omar Khadr committed the crime of which he was accused. It was the decision of the U.S. military to describe something that was in a war zone as terrorism, when in the common sense understanding of the word terrorism, it wasn't. And I recommend to you the journalism of Sandy Garasino, who has produced a photograph that makes it quite clear that at the moment that Mr. Khadr was supposed to have been able to throw a grenade, he was under a pile of rubble. The whole question is very fraught with historical revisionism, and we're not that far into our history. We also know that his rights were violated because he was a child at the time that his father took him into a war zone. There's a lot wrong with that story.
I thought that's a great question by David Menzies. I think her first response was a disaster. I was just making a joke about a murderer who killed a man and left two kids without a dad. I mean, come on. Don't we all joke about that? Come on. David came back really strong, and then we saw that, in fact, it wasn't a joke. Elizabeth May deeply loves Omar Khadr. Every fact she said was false. He was not a child soldier, either under American law, under Afghan or Pakistani law, under Canadian law, or under the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child. It is not an unfounded allegation that he committed terrorism. It was a criminal conviction before a jury. More than that, it was a confession signed by Omar Khadr with the advice and approval of his very zealous lawyers. Not a word she said there was true, but David's thesis was obviously true. Omar Khadr is first in the heart of Elizabeth May. There's a super chat I've been waiting to talk to for a while. Holly Guy chips in $9.99. Thank you. Ezra, you're my hero. I'm from the U.S. We'll always support the Rebel. You were a beast last night. You all are amazing, and congrats on the win in court. I was so happy to contribute. Thank you for the compliment of calling me a beast. There are different kinds of beasts, and let's just leave it at that. I'm sure you meant that in a nice way. No, I'm kidding around. I think I know what you mean. I was mad last night, but actually, I'll tell you, it felt great. One of our rebels there said, Ezra, it was a beautiful disaster, she said. And I said, that's exactly what it was. Here's how I felt. I was mad that we were deplatformed because I had a signed contract, we paid the money. I was disappointed because I love the Princess Theatre, we've sold it out before. I was sort of disappointed in Mike Brower for caving in because he should have known better. And I thought, this is not fair. And more than that, I used to live in Edmonton, lived there for 4 years. I used to go to that theater. I used to live on campus, which is just a few blocks away. That's where you would go for the cheap movies, right? The artsy movies, the weird movies, the old movies or events. So I'm not going to say I was there every week, but I felt like the Princess Theatre was sort of like my stomping grounds. And it was a thrill to have a packed movie premiere there a couple years ago for the Rebel. So to be blackballed from my own place made me mad and a little bit sad. It feels alienating and marginalizing, but that immediately flipped to conviction and resolve, when I realized that those guys had trapped themselves. And I don't want to go back to that too much again, but my point is, had all those mean girls screamed at Mike Brower and kept him up at night and he was scared, had they just been super mean to him, but not canceled the event, there's nothing I could do about it, right? I guess Mike Brar could call the police if someone uttered a death threat at him or something. But the moment they succeeded in their campaign to have him rip up the contract, I don't think they knew what they were doing, because it was their very success that made them liable, that was the commission of a tort, which is what lawyers call a wrong. Tort is actually the French word for a wrong. Vrai ou tort, I think. I don't know my French. Faux. They hung themselves. And what was incredible, and I think I mentioned this in my speech last night, some anonymous trolls committed that tort. I probably will never find them. But there's this one, what's her name, Jessica Littlewood, former MLA for, actually she lived on Reed's riding, former NDP MLA, was saying this should not happen at the Princess Theatre, this should not happen anywhere. A former New Democrat MLA breaches a contract, induces the breach of a contract. I can imagine why Mike Brar, he's actually a new immigrant Canadian. He's been here for a couple decades. An immigrant Canadian businessman. I can imagine he's scared of a former government MLA threatening him. But that stupid New Democrat. There we go. Jessica Littlewood, I'd rather see it nowhere. And she had another one where she sent in some really mean stuff. It's not the meanness that's relevant, it's that she succeeded. She succeeded in getting the contract breached, and now she will be sued. I wonder if she realizes what she's done. I have. I believe I've invented or rediscovered a way to stop deplatforming. And I suppose I would rather live in a world where there was no deplatforming than to live in a world where there's deplatforming but I've found the cure to it. Either way, we're going to get back to a world of no deplatforming, because I shall cure every one of these little NDP thugs of their authoritarian complex. Actually, that's probably too hardwired in their DNA. I will get a judge to tell these people the way it is. And I look forward to that day very, very much. All right, did I miss any of the super duper chats? No, okay, I'm all caught up. Okay, let's check the time, it's 12:42. I'm not going to do any more clips from the debates. They were all great. Sorry. Okay, so Kian and David Menzies and our buddy Andrew Lawton were just killing it. How many questions? I see Kian in the production. How many questions did you get off last night? 6 questions. And just as Zinn said, it's like a lottery. You're lucky if you get one question. All right, well, I guess Kian should go buy himself a Lotto 649, because he got 6 questions yesterday, he got 6 questions last week. 12 times lightning strikes. That's a lucky rabbit's foot right there. And Menzies, how many did Menzies get last night? Let me try and count. 1, 2, 3. He got 8 last night. Is that true? Maybe 7 or 8. So between the two of you got 14 questions, and Justice Zinn said, well, you can even get 1. 14, more than any other media outlet, I'm sure. Well, this did not go unnoticed. And do we have the platonic date vid there? Thanks. So Rosemary Barton and the selfie. Why don't we start with the selfie, and then can you get me the platonic date one? So Rosemary Barton is like if I were in drag. That's like someone called me beast mode. Okay, so Rosemary Barton is sort of an affirmative action, like she's a twofer, affirmative action hire at the CBC. Imagine Ezra, but in drag. And she was appointed as a token to be the chief reporter of CBC's The National. That's their flagship show that gets about 200,000 viewers a night, down from about 1 million a few years ago. And why was she appointed? Because she looks like me, that handsome? No. Because of this. Look at this. Look how she treats power. Hi guys, I did this. I love you. Oh my God. He actually posed for a selfie with me. And then she bragged about it and posted it on Twitter. And then he went on a date with her. A platonic date, don't get me wrong. I'm not implying that it was consummated in any way. But you listen to these questions. Let's say you've got a date with the Prime Minister, and the cameras are there, and he can't run away. He can't, he's stuck with you. You can ask him anything, and you can ask him the most brutal questions, because if he walks out of the interview, it's probably worse for him. You've got the Prime Minister all to yourself. You've got 3 cameras rolling. What would you ask him? You could ask him anything. Think about what journalistic questions you might ask. Okay? Now think about the last time you were on a first date. What are your first date questions? So what movies do you like? Hey, what kind of music are you into? We're having Italian. What kind of food? Do you like Indian food? Have you ever tried Ethiopian food? You read any good books like this? So those are first date questions, right? So if you have Prime Minister questions, it's like, well, Jody Wilson-Raybould was fired. Why won't you release her from cabinet confidences? Or what was the last time you had contact with your Chinese counterpart to free the hostages? Or there's a whole bunch of Prime Minister-y questions. And then there's, hey, so what's on your iPad or your iPod or whatever? Which path do you think Rosie took? That's why I call this clip the platonic first date. Take a look.
Last book you've read or the book you're reading?
Just finished the Patch, which was Chris Turner's history
Yes,
of the oil patch. But I'm also about to start the new Ken Follett, the third book that is the sequel to Pillars of the Earth.
That's your nerdy side.
That's my
your sci-fi nerdy side.
No, it's not sci-fi. It's just a sweeping historical epic, I'm sure, but I haven't started it yet. So,
what kind of music are you listening to right now? If you have time, or podcasts. Podcasts?
No, I don't. I've tried. I run regularly, and I've tried to do the podcast thing, but it hasn't really. It doesn't really. I don't like people talking in my ears when I'm trying to run. I like to sort of vibe out.
Last book you've
I think she's in love. And I think he knows it. And I think back in high school, he would have all sorts of mean nicknames for her. But he knows how to use that, and he'll get her to do anything. Because she actually thinks she's on a date with him. Those are date questions. What's on your iPod? What are you listening to? Tell me about your nerdy side. What book you're reading? There's other questions there, like, if you weren't a prime minister, what kind of job would you do? I swear to God, those are first date questions. Tell me I'm wrong. And did you see, give me that with just as B-roll. Let me talk over it. Look at the end there. Look at how she looks at him. Guys, find yourself a woman who looks at you the way I look at a smoked meat sandwich, or the way Rosemary Barton looks at Justin Trudeau. You find a woman who looks at you like that. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. You got someone who's with you for life. You got someone who'll do anything for you. Keep it rolling. Near the end especially. He's not going to date you, girl. He's not going to date you. Look at that. Look at that laugh. Look at that laugh. Look at that laugh. What kind of music you listening to right now? What's your favorite color? Okay, thank you. That woman did not like Cian Bexley's questions or David Menzies' questions. Can you believe that? And let me prove it to you. Throw up the tweets. Journalism is a critical part of democracy, and just because someone says they're a journalist doesn't make them so. Journalists seek truth, use facts, and hold the powerful to account. That's a good measure of whether someone's a journalist or not. And Kean and David, I don't like you guys. I don't like you guys. Okay? I just don't like you guys so much right now. Because you're asking my platonic boyfriend some really mean questions. Justin! What's in your playlist? Did you get the dance mix tape that I sent you? I made a mixtape for you and I doodled JT plus RB and I put it in a heart. I want to share one more tweet from Katie Simpson. That's another girl that just doesn't have a chance with Trudeau. I'm sorry, girls. I wouldn't say he's taken because I'm not sure he's really strict about things like that, but I don't think you got a chance with him, Katie. Look at this. This is a Twitter header for Katie Simpson of the CBC. She has chosen as her own banner a Justin Trudeau campaign image. Look, Katie, we know, okay, we knew it in our bones, but you were supposed to have plausible deniability. You were supposed to keep that sort of on the low down. Like it was a little bit much when your rival for his affections started asking, so what kind of food you like? And boxers or briefs? But sister, you just put it right out there. You're on the team. You got to know better than that. So these two CBC journalists did not like what Kean and David had to say. Do we have the shampoo question? I want to let you know, it's not just all the single ladies. It's not just all the single ladies in the press gallery that are hoping maybe I can get my platonic date with the pickup artist. That's what he's like. Justin Trudeau is the ultimate pickup artist with all the lines. I want to let you know it's not just all the single ladies at the CBC, all the cat ladies at the CBC, all the make a bubble bath, pour yourself a glass of red wine and cry yourself to sleep ladies at the CBC. It's not just them. It's the lads too. And not just the friends of Dorothy. There's just a lot of love there. All the women want him, all the men want to be him. How else can you explain this accountability journalism? Take a look-see.
The one that the entire country wants to know. What shampoo do you use?
What a disappointing answer this is going to be. Whatever happens to be hanging around at the time.
I don't know which was more pitiful, that Tom Clark, he's retired now, but that was him asking Trudeau, that he asked the question about the shampoo, or that Trudeau said, okay, yeah, good question, let me answer this. I got an answer. Okay, I'm thinking, I got an answer. It might not be the answer you like, but the answer is that it's actually whatever shampoo, like, which is lamer? That Tom Clark would answer that, or that Trudeau would answer it as earnestly as he did. He loved talking about shampoo. It's the same. Do we have the marijuana montage clip, or is that hard to find? It's Trudeau doesn't read any of his briefing notes, and that's not my opinion. That was his legal defense in the conflict of interest case involving the Aga Khan. He pleaded that, look, he couldn't have known, he couldn't have been in conflict with the Aga Khan, who was lobbying Canada for tens of millions of dollars when Trudeau took the free vacation from him. He couldn't have known it was a conflict because Trudeau never reads his notes. He just comes in and slaps some backs, and other people do the hard part. But when you ask Trudeau about shampoo or about marijuana, then finally his eyes light up and he speaks very passionately, because it's the only goddamn thing he knows about. Here, take a look.
I have been in my past a very rare user of marijuana.
Yeah, right. Actually, that was just a quick clip, and Justin, I put you on the spot. I know we have a no, don't worry about it. We got a longer montage where he talks very, very passionately about 12 times on the campaign trail. Justin Trudeau prefers the platonic date questions. What's on your iPod? You like Ethiopian foods? Does this outfit make my ass look big? What kind of shampoo do you use? Can we have a second platonic date but without all these cameramen around? Who do you like more, me or Katie? Trudeau likes those questions better than he likes accountability questions. I think I missed a super chat. Let me come to it now. Troy S. While I respect the work you and the Rebel do, I strongly believe that your voices and acting makes you look like a fool. Troy S. Touche, my friend. A hit, a very palpable hit. Well, the fact that you spent $10 to tell me that tells me that you really want me to hear it. I like doing the voices occasionally. It's an impression. It's an impression. How can you not mock the senior political journalist of the CBC for taking selfies with the Prime Minister and asking him first date questions? I don't want to say those in my grown-up voice. I want to say those in an exaggerated or impersonated voice, because it's too jarring to ask those childish, girlish questions, first date questions, without adding some oomph to them. But I take your point. But and I know you mean it in a good way. Holly Guy, $2.99. I mean beast in the good way, super courageous. I know, I was just having fun. I of course think of that incredible film, Sexy Beast. Have you seen that film? Do you know who I'm talking about? Will it demonetize this channel if we run the trailer for Sexy Beast? Yeah. What's that guy? Ben Kingsley. Amazing performance. You want banter. You want Cockney banter. Holy guacamole. You got to see that movie, Sexy Beast. Super chat here. MVP chips in $4. Respect to Kean. Nothing seems to faze him. Ain't that a triple truth? The young lad, unafraid to go in there and speak truth to power. Oh, and all the first date girls did not like it. Oh, the harem of cat ladies that Trudeau likes to keep, they did not like that one bit. I think Kean did a great job. We only have 3 minutes left, just enough time to show you what's become of, I got a quiz, I got a 2-part quiz. Is this Shakira? Or is this Techno Viking after a few very rough years? Oh, my hips don't lie. His hips don't lie. That could be a Rosemary Barton interview. I don't think he's washed those dreadlocks in years. The cop's talking in his microphone. I don't know what he's listening. I just can't get Shakira. Is that Shakira? That's the Existence Extinction Climate Convention thing going on. But it reminded me of what perhaps the most masculine man ever to walk the streets of Europe looked like. I'm talking about Techno Viking. You know what I'm talking about. Show a little Techno Viking on the screen. This is what a real man looks like. Look at that. That guy hit that girl, but look at Techno Viking. He ain't having any of that. Techno Viking grabs the mean guy, puts him in an arm bar, as we say, shoves him and points. Get out. You don't touch ladies like that. You don't touch ladies like that. He's toy like a toiger. Yeah, don't you touch ladies like that. Now he looks like he's thirsty. He could use a drink, I think. Can someone give this guy a bottle of water? Okay, thank you. Yeah, good. Yeah, upside down like that. That's how he likes it. He likes it room temperature, upside down. All right. Und this is when we dance. I have no idea who Techno Viking is. But that looks like a very special moment in time. Can you flick back to today's man? The guy with the dreadlocks. This looks like a before and after meth photos. My hips don't lie. Da, 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 da. This is perfection. I think we've got a couple of super chats, and then we're going to call it a day, because if I got in trouble for doing accents or whatever that was, my Techno Viking tangent ain't going to go over well. Did you send, super chats? Okay. TS, $10, no message there. And I think we got a $5. All right, well, would you say that, though, here we go, Michael, $5. If you were to look in the dictionary for investigative journalism, you would find Kean and Menzies' name there. You're lucky to have them. Well, the best is yet to come. Let me just say that. There's so many stories out there, and it is my view that most stories are actually just lying there in open sight, being strategically ignored by the narrative makers. So you just need a little bit of courage and curiosity, and a star is born. I think we've got some great journalists, and we certainly punch above our weight. Well, before I show you any more old dancing videos, let me call it a day. It's 1:02 p.m. I thank you for joining us. For those who chipped in the super chats, I appreciate that. I explain away any enthusiasms, including my comments about Rosemary Barton's appearance, to my jet lag and over caffeination. But I stand by my mockery of what she actually said to Justin Trudeau, because if those weren't first date questions, I don't know what was. My friends, thank you for watching us today. Until next time, on behalf of all of us here at Rebel World headquarters to you at home, goodbye, and keep fighting for freedom. Do, 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 do.